Hey guys, welcome to How to Be Fancy. I'm Heather and today we're doing the last of the basics hair series. Sorry for the weird light. I've got sunshine just straight on in my face, but this is the only time that I have to film this. So we'll just do our best. The light is going to change here in probably like 5 or 10 minutes, which is fantastic. Today I'm going to be talking about foam roller sets. This is a set that I really like to do when I need my set to last for like an extended period of time. I think that you will have already seen my flat iron tutorial by the time this one goes up, and that is actually my new favorite way to get my hair to last for a long time. But before that, foam rollers is definitely the way that I choose to go. It's also the way that I choose to save my sets at night, which you'll see a whole little video on that as well. I've done some brush out, like set brush outs before, so if you want to reference how I brush this out when it's done, I will leave a link for that down below. But today we're going to be talking about rolling all of this up. When I go to roll my hair in foam rollers, I don't typically have wet hair. It's usually done on dry hair. So my hair, I washed it yesterday, and I'm going to roll it today and probably sleep on it overnight, and that will give me probably 2 or 3 days of a set after that. So this is a way to extend washes on your hair as well. But I have completely dry hair. I would also do this with like maybe 80% wet hair, something like that. But for me, if I do a foam roller set on completely wet hair, it will take it 3-4 days to dry. It may never dry. It may just like get stinky, which can happen. So what I like to do instead is I'm gonna comb through this real quick, is I take something like Suavecito, which is a grooming spray, and I dump about half of it into another spray bottle, and then I fill about half of it up with water, so it's a little bit diluted, because I find that if I use this just fully straight on, then it gets really, really sticky. And since I have very straight hair, how many times can I say that? I have very straight hair. Since I have very straight hair, I can't just like get a curl to roll around a roller. Like, I'll show you what I mean by that. So if I just try to put my straight hair around a roller, it may not do it right here at the front because I don't have that many layers, but you can see all these little bits like to stick straight up. So what I like to do instead is use a grooming spray like this. And I take and I spray it, kind of concentrating on the ends of my hair. Just ate a little bit of that. It's lovely. And then I comb it through up the length of the hair. And that's going to give me some like kind of stickiness that will allow me to get this roller to roll around the curler. And it'll still stick up, but because it's a little bit damp, I can like kind of control where it lays down. It'll just hold it a little bit better. And of course the grooming spray just provides hold overall. So I want to make sure that all of those little ends are nice and tucked in really flat, because how they lay on the roller is how they're going to dry. I think they're working on my road again. Yay! And then I just curl it up to the root of the hair and clip it in. Now, when I am rolling my hair, I typically like to use the same sized roller. So I'm using these little guys today around the front of my hair, which are these, I think they're like a 1/2 inch, maybe 3/4 inch. I don't know. They don't say on this package, so I'm just kind of guessing, but they're the same size as your traditional pink roller is. That's what this little bright green one is. And I like to use those on this perimeter kind of my head right here, just like this front section. So I'm going to do that now. Of course, I've got my hair parted as per usual. Going to turn up the brightness now that the sun is starting to go down. Is that all right? I don't know. We'll see what happens. And when I do a foam roller set, depending on if I want it really, really like curly, and that will last me a few days, or if I'm looking for more of a 1930s like floofy curl, I want to pack as many of these rollers as I can onto my head. And then if I'm doing something more like a 60s set, or just want a looser curl, I use fewer rollers or larger rollers. I think you can get these in one size larger, which would be especially helpful if you have longer hair as well and want to not have to put like literally 100 rollers in your hair. And I have 2 sets of these combined. Just because I use them so much they wear out, but also because I like this size, and I'll show you the other size here in a minute. And so to get enough of those, I've combined 2 little sets of the ones that I'll link below. They're from Amazon. So I'm just curling everything under and away from my part. And again, make sure that you're keeping this hair, like you don't want to twist it around the roller. I'm just laying it flat around the roller. Now, if you have longer hair and are using a larger roller, you can twist the hair around a roller. And maybe, I don't have long hair, so I can't really show you what that looks like, or a bigger roller. But that'll create a spiral, which is kind of a fun effect too. But you have to do everything uniform, so I'm just rolling everything under. And you can see why having your hair with as few layers as possible is really going to be helpful when you are doing your hair in foam rollers or pin curls, because the fewer layers you have, the easier it is to just roll everything up, and you don't have all of these little loose ends that you're trying to tuck into your hair. Or tuck into a roller. You know what I mean. The other thing you want to do when you're wrapping these around the roller is to make sure you're not pulling too tight on this. You can see I get a little bit of a dent where I'm placing the hair, but I don't want to pull that too hard and like squeeze it in the middle, because actually you're not going to be getting like a 1/2 inch curl. That's going to take it down to like a 1/4 inch curl, and you're going to have these really dense curly cues, and just won't get a really uniform, even kind of curl. So make sure you're not pulling too hard. In fact, if I pull too hard, I just kind of let go of the roller a little bit and let it kind of poof back out. And then once I get the end around it, I'm not pulling at all. I'm literally just rolling this up and guiding the hair onto the roller. Because the other thing you don't want to do is let any of that hair slide off the end of the roller, because if it catches in this little clip, you're going to get a little crinkle. And if it looks too like thick right here, you can always come through, just kind of spread it out along the roller. And especially if your hair is a little bit more wet, like if you tried to roll this when your hair was like 70-80% wet or dry, that'll give you some more airflow through that roller. And you can see sometimes they don't lay perfectly straight. You could re-roll that. I just leave it. I don't think it's that important. When I roll my hair, I think I've mentioned this before, I usually don't even have a mirror in front of me. I'm usually watching something on Netflix. It takes about 30 minutes to do, so I usually watch a show and roll it up before bedtime, and we are good to go for the following day. And that's what I love about this kind of set with the rollers, is that when you sleep on it, you're not flattening out any curl, and so it's pretty easy to sleep on once you kind of get the hang of what it feels like to sleep on rollers. I know they're not like the most comfortable thing in the world, but it does come in really handy when you either don't want to heat style your hair, or you don't have a lot of time in the mornings. You can do this at night, and then all you have to do in the mornings is your brush out, which usually takes about 20 minutes or so. Now sometimes down on these last 2 little curls by my ear, I will go in with the smaller of my rollers. They look like this. They're about 1/4 inch, something like that. And I do these front little ones just because my hair really loosens up the further down my neck it starts to go, so sometimes I will roll these up like so. They also kind of just fit into that space above my ear a little bit better. And if you're not sure that the hair is completely curled around the roller, you can always take the end of your comb and just kind of wrap it around like this, and that'll smooth some of that out if it doesn't feel like it's perfectly flat in there. So then on the top of my crown here, I'm going to take just a little, this first section here, like this little top section here, and I'm going to use the same larger rollers here, and then I'm going to switch to the smaller ones for the bottom part of my hair, just because I don't need as much curl in the top layer of my hair. But like I said, I typically lose curl the further down the crown of my hair I go. So I usually switch to a smaller roller at that point. I don't have a clip. Let me grab a clip. I'm just going to take the hair that I don't want rolled up and clip that out of the way. Maybe. There we go. Hopefully this is one of the last videos that you have to see my atrocious roots in. Working on a hair plan, which you may have seen at this point depending on how these videos go up. I don't know. This is a longer series than I thought it was going to be, but I wanted to make sure to get all of the details that I possibly could get to you. And so it became a thing. It became a whole thing. So then again, making sure those ends are flat, not pulling too hard, and rolling up to the crown. Now I'm just going to do the same thing and create another row here. Clip this little guy out of the way. Now I'm going to switch over to the smaller sized rollers, and both my purple and this, so I guess it's another yellow one. These are both the same size. You may have to use a little bit less hair in these because they are smaller. So depending on the length of your hair, just kind of adjust the amount of hair. You don't want to be cramming a ton of hair into these, or you just won't really get a great curl out of them. And usually with the smaller ones per row, I do about 5 rollers. I remember when I first started wearing foam rollers to get vintage styles out of, all I could think of when I was doing this is like Saturday night when I was a kid and my mom putting these in my hair, the pink ones of course, and waking up the next morning thinking I was going to have like beautiful like wavy curls, and then always looking like Shirley Temple and being so disappointed that the ringlets were not beautiful curls. It wasn't fair. Little did I know, it's because they weren't intended to do that. I find that rolling your hair up in these when your hair is dry also helps to keep the frizz at bay. So some of you I know are worried about a lot of frizz with foam rollers, and that can definitely happen. But the drier my hair is, the easier and more manageable I find the curl to be once it's done. So I'm going to do this last little row and I will be right back to show you what it looks like. Okay, so here's the final look. You can see again, I'm just doing this to the best of my ability. Of course, if you are more dexterous, is that the right word? Than I am, it'll probably look a lot neater, but I don't put anything like straight up in the top of my crown here. I keep everything kind of right around this perimeter here, and then once I brush it out, that will all kind of brush down to this area here. Hope that makes sense. Now I never do rollers like this unless I am going to be able to sleep on them overnight. The only way I would say you could do this quicker would be if you had one of those like old school like hair dryer things that you like sit underneath. I know a lot of girls have those. If you have one, then that would be a way to get this faster. You could probably sit under it for about an hour or so, and these would be set and ready to go. But since I don't have that, what I do is I take a silk scarf, and you know the drill. I always fold mine into a little triangle, put the flat part of the triangle onto the back of my head, and I want to make sure that I catch those rollers in the back of that. Bring the two sides up to the top, kind of toward my forehead, and then I tie those down once. And I like to tie them in front of that top roller, which is going to make this look a little bit funky. You can tie it behind too, but I like to keep all the rollers in this little thing, or they have a tendency to fall out on me overnight. It just depends on what your hair likes to do. Then you take that little middle piece of the triangle, tuck it into what you've tied, and kind of roll it back. And then once that's there, I tighten things up and finish out my knot. Like so. And then you can just tuck this either down in front like this, just being really careful that you don't like move those rollers around too much. Or you can take it And there should be a little spot where you can tuck that in if your scarf is big enough into the back. Just want to get those little ends out of the way. And then if you are a person who is a wild sleeper like me, you might take a couple bobby pins and just bobby pin this. I usually do it here at the temples and in the back. Just to keep this on my head overnight. If you need to shower in the morning, just make sure that you have a shower cap. You can fit all of your rollers neatly into that. I never take my rollers out before I shower. I leave them in, put the shower cap on, and then when I take the shower cap off, I want to make sure that I didn't get any, especially around the nape of the neck, I want to make sure that I don't have any of those that are too wet. So if you need to, you can just take a hair dryer real quick and run over that just to make sure everything is completely dry before you take any of these rollers out. If you take damp rollers out, you're not going to have any curl left. I think that's all I had to say about my foam roller set. Like I said, I will leave a brush out video down below so you can see how this comes out. Again, if you have any questions, my last final video will be a Q&A video, so make sure you leave those on this video or any of the other videos in the basic series. I'm just going to go through all of those, and if there are any questions there that I wasn't able to answer, I'm going to pick all of those out and be answering them in the final Q&A video. Hope this was helpful and that you liked this. Sorry for the changing light, but hopefully you learned how I do this. If you have any tips on how you like to roll your hair up in foam rollers, I'd love to hear those down below. Until next time, guys, I love you very much, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.